Hello YouTube and welcome back to my channel. I haven't done anything on the layout for probably, well, most of this month, or anything this month really, because one thing with work, and I've also been out doing shows and bits and pieces, so sort of the layout's kind of been left a little bit. And one of the other things was I didn't know how to drive my points. I've been looking at various different ways. I've got some tortoise point motors that I sort of played around with, but I couldn't get the throws right. I'm assuming that's probably more me than, because those tortoise do give you quite long throws. So I looked around and I've decided to go down the MegaPoints road. I think I bought a board some time ago. It was this one here. That is the 12-way servo board. I have to say, to be completely and totally honest, when I bought this, apart from knowing it was a 12-way servo board, I absolutely didn't have any clue as to what to do with it. I sort of looked at it and thought to myself, oh no, what am I doing? I mean, I'm part of the Wirral Model Railway or Wirral Fine Scale group, and they use MegaPoints for everything, so I think that's probably what it was. But like I said, I got it home, I looked at it and thought, I've got no idea how to hook it up, I've got no idea how to use it, and really and truly I had no idea. So I looked at, when we was at the Great Electric Trains, they had a demonstration board there, so I was talking to our guru about it, and he was saying, oh, you can do this, you can do that. So what I've decided to do was, rather than sort of going for sort of all out, I thought if I just get one turnout working, and then at least I sort of have a bit of a better idea as to where I'm going with it, rather than sort of like trying to sort of like eat the whole cake at one time. I thought if I just cut a little bit off it and understand that before I go any further, then I should be okay. I mean, I was watching, I think it's Dave at MegaPoints doing his demonstration, and he's like, where he's so used to it, he's just like, I'll press this button, press that button, and ding ding ding, there it all goes. And sure enough, there it all went, and it all worked. But that's all well and good, but then you go home and you think, what button did he say press, or everything else? I mean, there are absolutely loads of tutorials as well on YouTube, which I've sort of been watching a bit of YouTube and then sort of pressing my own little buttons and going, oh yeah, she does actually do something. So I'm going to go through what I've done and how I've done it, just to add to another tutorial. But yeah, so for me personally, I'm an electrician as well by trade, so I sort of understand roughly what I need to do. But when we start getting into like the balls that look like this, just scared me a little bit. But I think once you decide that you're actually going to do something, then I think MegaPoints offers a lot. Everything's intercompatible, and you can do so much with it. I'm sure you can with other stuff out there as well, but as I said, because the group themselves use MegaPoints as well, then I can, you know, if I do need technical help, it's just at the end of the phone, which is a great thing. So this is what I've done. So this is my first turnout. So this is the one that goes off the yard into my refueling depot. So I've got my pin that goes up through the middle. So that's your driver. That's the board. Excuse the mess. That's the board there that's actually driving at the moment. And then that there, up there, is the servo itself, and that's also on a MegaPoints servo mount. And what I've done is I've just double-sided sticky taped that to the underside of the board for now. It will need a screw in it, but rather than trying to screw it up and all the rest of it, I just put double-sided sticky tape on it just to hold it in place whilst I was carrying out my testing. And going back to the board, what I've got is just configured, wherever the board is, that is just configured to the absolute simplest way that you possibly could. So all it is the orange, red and brown. This one here is actually the servo connection, and that's in one. And then this here is a servo wire, which is basically going from switch line 1, so 1 talks to 1, and then it goes down to this end, which actually acts as the other side of the switch. So at the moment it's plugged in. If I okay, so I unplug it and that point should throw, hopefully, and there you go. and if I plug that back in, which I can't see, so I'm not going to be able to, then it will throw back in the other direction. And what you can also do, in order to actually set the parameters of the throw, on down there, I don't know if you can see it. Yeah, you see you've got low, program and high. So what you do is you press the program button, in this case once, because I'm programming zone 1 if you like, and then you just use the low and high button to actually set the amount of drive you want on the servo. So it's not overstressing the servo. So I've only set this to drive the amount I need to in order to throw the point, if that makes any sense, rather than sort of throwing it so as it's kind of going to its maximum each time. Because once the point is thrown to where you need it to go, and then a little bit, there's no real point in pushing any harder, even though it's on the piano wire that they supply, so there is a little bit of tolerance in that as well. It's probably not very good to overstress either the point or the turnout or the server itself. Yeah. So the easiest way to program it is I've got this server plugged into 1. So what you do is you press program button once, and then you'll hear the servo drive that you want. So you go click once, and then that will drive it. Then you can set the high and low. I will go through this with you when I do another one, but for the first one I wanted to just make sure that I half knew what I was talking about. And then when you've finished in the programming mode, if you, like me, you've only got one servo connected, then you need to press this button 12 more times. On the 13th one it'll come out of programming, obviously, because that gives you the 12 programs. Yeah. Okay, so I'll go through that with you one. You'll hopefully become a bit more clear when I actually do it. So what I do now is I go through the installation from start to finish of how I do my turnouts. So the first thing I need to do is drill a hole in the middle of the tie bar. Okay, one of the next things I need to check is just to make sure that the holes I drilled previously through the baseboard are actually in the right place and do line up with the throw, because there's nothing worse than finding out that isn't the case. So simple way of checking out is to pop your bit of wire through and then just do that. So I know that now that that's clear, and I should be able to. You probably can't see that, but that's moving freely, so that's good. So the next thing to do is set up so this is the MegaPoint base, which is the laser cut jobby, and then it's also got the server that just screws into it. So it just basically screws in like that, and then you can that's in there, and that's quite solid. These come in packs of 12, and then you just assemble them accordingly. These were already assembled when I got them, so it mimics, or it follows sort of the tortoise. Well, it does. That's obviously a tortoise base, and that's that. So I suppose flavourable, the way that works with the piece of wire that you'll see me putting up there is very similar, but then that's what needs to happen in order for it to work anyway, because that's where it gets its leverage from. So I've got my piano wire here. This is what he provides. So I'm going to use some of that. So I'm just going to cut myself off a piece. Don't need to be over long. That's about where I've been cutting them. Then what you need to do then is put like a sort of a locking shape on them. So first one, go about there, and then the next one which you might want a bit more on that, rather awkwardly. So what you're looking for is almost like a Z shape, similar to that. And then undo that comes off there. Then that goes through there. Now you can set these wherever you like, but for me personally, I'm putting it through the second hole. And then that locks in like that, and the Z shape is obviously to keep the bit hooked on the back so as it don't come out, because if that was just a straight 90-degree bend, that could potentially pull off, but with that sort of being almost a Z, that kind of holds that in. So that goes in there like that. And what I'm also doing is I'm putting it goes through that hole there, which is said similar to what a tortoise does, and then that goes on there, and then that just pops back on the spline. Yeah, so MegaPoints would recommend that this would go in the down position like it was, and he would say use the fourth hole up. But because I wanted a bit more throw, I think you can sort of see that throwing, I've done it like this. But it is entirely up to yourself how you go about setting these up. Obviously you set them up to suit your own train set, and not necessarily, you know, it has to work the point or the turnout at the end of the day, and not necessarily what A or B says, is what works for you. So this is what we're going to do now. So this will now go up under the baseboard like that. Now this bit I won't be able to film doing it because it's going to be too awkward. So I'm just going to come back to you once I've done it. So what I have here now is, this is actually the most basic way of using one of these panels, but that is in some ways a good way of explaining it, because it does show sort of how easy it is. So there's, at the moment, it's completely just as it was when it came out of the box. I've done no programming to the actual panel itself, so it's not connected, or it's not configured to work with any other panels. By pressing these 4 buttons in whatever order you need to, changes the configuration, so then you can either have it as a standalone board, which it is at the moment, or you can use these connections and then you can daisy chain it to other boards. Effectively it becomes part of the network. So at the moment it is in its absolute basic standalone system. Because I've set up the throws for 1, 2, 3, which is the 3 points underneath the camera, I'm going to now just explain how this works. So I've plugged it into 4. So at the moment servo 4 is just straight standard out of its box. So coming down the left hand side, you've got your S1, S2, S3, S4, S5 to S12. So that's the switches. So when they become energized, that's what throws the servo. And you've also got 1, 2, 3, 4 to 12 here, which is where the servos plug in. The way that I've done it is, the orange is the switch in this case, and then you've got the other 2 is the power. And I think that's normally the case. It's probably just worth checking, but I think in normal scenario, the light one is actually the one that you would put on the switch. So at the moment, if I just go between 4, because this is in 4, and then to the very bottom, which is SC, there's 2 that are the same, but I'm going to go to the very bottom one with just a servo lead, just a basic servo lead. You should see that servo drive to the opposite position. And there you go. That's just driven. So that's its full throw. There's no programming on it. That's literally just how it is. If I unplug it, it throws back. So that really is as basic as you can possibly get. And you don't have to obviously do this. You could just go through just like a switch, any sort of switch on, switch off, and that will achieve the same thing. I'm just doing it like this because just for the sort of video. And then just back on again and back off again. Right, so then for programming the parameters of it, because you may not want it to move as far as what it is. So in order to program it, which again is really simple. I've watched Dave mini exhibitions, and he sort of goes da 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 da, and it all does what you want it to do. And I think that's all well and good, but it's kind of like I'm thinking that don't really help me because I didn't really see what he did. So, like I said, there are hundreds of tutorials out there, but I've decided I'm going to just add my little piece to that. So, on these four bottoms here, you've got low, you've got program, you've got high, and you've got mode button. So we're not going to use the mode button. All we're going to do is we're going to use the program button. Now, however many times you push this, so I push it once, it goes to channel 1. When I press it twice, it goes channel 2. Press it 3 times, it will go to channel 3. 4 times, etc., all the way through to 12. And then the 13th push is it comes out of program mode. So when we actually get to channel 4, what you'll see is this thing will just go boom to the center position. So we're going to go 1, and you'll see the red light flashing now, which tells me that we're in programming mode. 2, 3, and the next one hopefully should make that do something. There you go, it did. So now this is in the center position or center-ish position, and is now ready to take the program for the parameters of which we want to move it for. So in the case of the turnout, what you would do is you would have this underneath the board, and then you would then press the high and the low button, and then you could watch it throw the blades. So you don't need to be throwing the blades. Once the blade has made contact, and then I just think a bit, then that's kind of good enough. But obviously we all do it our own way. But there's no point in having that server pushing the blades. Although the piano wire will take up a certain amount of tolerance, there's you just when you start forcing things, then you start putting stress on other bits and pieces that's not necessarily necessary. So here we go. We're going to press the low button, and you'll see that move now. So I'm going to just go to there, and then when I press the high button, it'll go back the other way. And I'm just going to leave it like that. So I'm just going to take it back to the center position. So now when I come out of programming mode and I actually call this, rather than that driving as far as it did earlier, it'll only drive between there and there. So I now need to press this. So we're going to go 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, and the next one should bring us out, which it has. Then I've just got my what they call the heartbeat little LED flashing there, which they call the heartbeat. So now when I energize this, it's only going to go a little way, and that's it. And when I take the power back off it, it will just go back, and that's as simple as that for the programming. So if I go 1, 2, 3, 4, it's centered. This time we're going to go all the way. That's it. You go all the way back. That's it. And then come out. Right, we're back out now, back into normal run mode, and when I make this connection, then that should then drive the full amount again, and then back out. And it really is that simple, and if I can do it, anybody can do it. So I'm quite pleased with that. What I do is, as I go through connecting old bits and pieces, I'll try and do the same sort of tutorial or the same sort of thing as I add other bits and pieces, but I need to sort of look at that myself and understand it more before I explain it on camera. But yeah, this is really sort of very simple indeed. Okay, so for programming the movement, I'm going to do is I'm going to press the programming mode, and you should just see that turnout jump to something like what is the center. So that's moved over now, so that's in programming mode. So what I need to do now is set the values, the high and the low values. You can't really see me doing this, but as I said, on this pad there's 2 buttons, well there's 4 buttons, but we're using the high and the low now to actually set where I need that turnout to be. So we're going to set the 1 throw first. So what I've done is I've taken it over to the straight, and then I'm just going to give it just a little tiny bit more just to make sure that that's right over, which it is. And then I'm going to set the other parameters, which is the diversion junction, which that's just gone over there now, just touched. So I'm just going to just give that a little tiny bit more. So hopefully now that should have set the straight and the diverging. So I'm just going to come out of programming mode by pressing and holding. And that's it, we're out of programming mode and we're back into normal operation. So if I switch that turnout, it should go the other way. So that's the diverging and that's the straight on. So the other thing that you need to do is to reverse the polarity on the V rails. So basically what would happen was that if the train was approaching from this direction, this rail here will be positive, this rail here will be the negative. But if we was approaching on this line, then this rail here would need to be positive and this one would need to be negative. So effectively this V needs to change polarity. Now there's various different ways of doing that. I do believe that there's I think it's DCC concepts, I could be wrong, but I did see on one of the YouTube videos that the guys use auto polarity, so I don't quite know how that hooks up, but it's I suspect that something senses it and it changes it over for you. So you can either do that, you could just simply add a switch in, so as you just switched it accordingly, but because we're going down the MegaPoints road, MegaPoints will also thought about that. So what we have here is some relays. Now these relays will go back and talk to that server via another board. So again, like I said, once we get to that, what I'll try and do is I'll link it all up so we can see it all working. But for now, what I need to do is just wire this up. So on these relays, you out of two is just your track power, so your positive and negative, and then the middle one is in my case I've used the grey. So the grey from here would go into the middle. And what I've tried to do is use different colours for fault finding purposes. So rather than using everything in red and black, if I use different colours, so like I'll know that all my control circuits are blue and brown. Just makes it easier. So when you sort of, if you're sort of at an exhibition, or if you need to sort of look underneath the layout and see what's going wrong, it makes it easier to trace cables. Again, ultimately the piece of electric doesn't know what colour the wire is, and it isn't going to make any difference to the electric whether or not it's in a pink with blue spotted cable or not. But just in a situation where you've got a fault find, if everything's in a bundle and everything's all the same colours, it does make it a little bit more difficult. But if you isolate, if you can change the colours, which is a fairly simple thing to do, then at least you know that all your track circuits, or in my case all my track circuits are red and black, my V's are all grey, and then I'm going to use blue and brown for my control circuits. Then it just helps, it just speeds things up should you need to sort of like be looking into it. So what I'm going to do now is I'm just going to loop these out, so that one will go in there, that one will go in there, then one to there, and then these will go back, and these just literally just connect back to the rail, so back to my buzz bar on the rails, and then as I said my greys go in the middle. I'm just going to get on and do that now. Okay, so this might look like a complete and utter tangle of wires, and to be fair, that's probably what it is, but it's not really, because each one of those has got a job. So this board here is the relay board. This board here is the main servo controllers, and this board here is the relays itself. So this board here is what's used to change the polarity in the V rails. So when you're approaching this is either negative or positive. So what happens is that, just try and sort of show you the wires. You've got the blue and the brown, which is basically the power from the actual rails themselves, and then the grey one in the middle is what goes to the V, and the relay either switches between those two or those two. This board here is the one that makes that happen. So you can drive up to 12 servos, 12 relays from this board. So that's 4 on there, that's 8, and that's 12. And this one here is the network connection that takes it back to the main relay board. And then the way that this system's set up, and straight out of the box I must add, is that relay number 1 is servo number 1, and then so on through to 12. So even though it does look sort of really complicated and really difficult, MegaPoints have made it very, very easy to sort of set up and commission. I am surprised. As I said originally, this was part of the problem with this end for me, was that I wasn't totally sure how to, or what I was going to use. So I kept looking at tortoises because I thought, well, they should be fairly easy to do. But in reality, I think the MegaPoint stuff is actually better. So hats off to the guy. And he has got some really good tutorials on YouTube, and is quite easy to follow. So yeah, I will be posting more videos as I sort of progress with this system and sort of try and explain myself, or try and explain what I'm doing, so as everyone sort of understands. But I'm no expert myself, so you know, if I can muddle through it, I'm sure that most of the rest of you can. I'd just like to say, my next outing, I'm going to be at Worley on the Saturday. I'll have my patch trains top on, so anyone that wants to come and speak to me, you're more than welcome. You should be able to find me. So yeah, just come up, talk to me, and I'm always happy to say hello to people. Got no problems with that, and it's nice to see you. Nice to see people that subscribe or watch the channel, because that's what it's all about, is hoping to sort of, as I said before, give some of you guys some inspiration, sort of try and sort of say things perhaps aren't as complicated as what maybe they first look. It's and sort of like get on with it. And the channel's inspired myself to do stuff as much as it is for you guys. So yeah, I'm really sort of I'm pleased with the progress. I'm really pleased that I've actually got something running down this end, and I've actually got some turnouts that are switching under their own power now, if you like, or under the power of the MegaPoint stuff anyway. So it's not a case of putting a screwdriver in the blade and holding it while the loco goes over it, and remembering to change the grey wires around, otherwise they all short out. So yeah, I have made some sort of real progress, and it is thanks to this channel that that's happened. So yeah, thank you to everyone that watches, thank you to all my subscribers, and yeah, I look forward to updating you a bit further on the next one. Thank you very much. Bye.